Okay. And we're back online here. Okay, so as we were talking about anathema, and so basically what Paul is saying in this selection is that all these people that are preaching these false gospels are going to be condemned. And by condemned, basically what he's saying is they're going to be excommunicated. Don't listen to these people because they're going to be excommunicated and from the Church of Christ, and they're going to be separated basically one day. And by them preaching these false gospels, I mean, really they already are separated. So Paul says that he's astonished how fast that these new converts had already fallen into these false doctrines, and that really tells you how powerful these false gospels are. So let's just try to put this in perspective of today. What are some false gospels that you guys may run into or see?
Well, I think a lot of, well, what Ravi Zacharias will tell you in his new book, when I'm cheating here, but he says that a lot of the New Age spirituality, to put it really broadly, what you actually end up doing is you transfer deity from God to yourself. You actually so that the gospel becomes, it's the gospel of you. And I think Oprah personifies that. Her whole empire is dedicated to making you number one. And you can do this. Believe in yourself, liberate yourself, you free yourself. And it's so I think probably one of the most tempting gospels in I guess Western cultures like America, like North America in particular, is just, I would just we just call it the gospel of me. And just seek whatever satisfies you, whatever indulgences you want to make yourself feel better. Pursue those.
Well, and then another one is just we're so afraid to offend anybody anymore. So people just want to adapt, like Oprah does. Like, oh, there's not just one way. Like, all these other people can come to Christ too through their own way. And so like we end up watering down the gospel, and instead of saying like, no, Christ is the way, the truth, and life, we say, oh, well, I don't want to offend them, so I'm not gonna tell them exactly what the Bible says. I'm gonna show them that Christ is just love, or Christ is like, and they pick and choose what they want to use as their gospel message, so to speak. So it's not the Bible anymore. It's, well, it makes me feel better to be comfortable with my friend over here who's a homosexual. So I'm going to say that, Christ doesn't, see anything wrong with that. And while Christ does love the homosexual, there's a whole, there's like a whole another issue behind that entirely. So instead of addressing like those certain things in love and walking with that person through what the Bible says, they just step right over it and say, I'm not going to deal with that. I'm not going to get my hands dirty. I'm not going to, go through all the trouble of offending this person in order to show them the right, the true way. So
I think even within that, though, like, they take out the issue of sin.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's, like any aspect of, make myself feel better, or I don't want to offend the other person. They don't want to come right on and say, that's sin. What you're doing is sin. We just want to say, like, oh, well, we all make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no. If there's a sin issue, you need to address it. And I think it's, even as believers, I think it's so easy for us to blur those lines and just say, well, I'll show you love, but I won't hold you accountable, or I won't confront you, and I'm just going to love you. Well, you're not loving them if you're like tiptoeing over an issue that's clearly in their lives. You're actually hindering them. And I think that's a big part.
Those are good. All those answers are great answers. One thing I'm surprised nobody mentioned would be something a little more I guess in our face and kind of concrete would be things that kind of pretend that they're Christian but aren't really Christian, like such as Mormons. No offense, just kidding. Mormons. It's funny because whenever I say something about that, I mean, I was joking about saying no offense, but you almost feel like, is there a Mormon around me? And it is that same thing you're talking about wanting to tiptoe around it. But Mormons are, of course, Jehovah's Witnesses. I was in a class. I forgot what class it was. I think it was a theology class I took, and basically one of our big papers in it was we had to write a paper disputing all the claims on the watchtower.org, which is this website for Jehovah's Witnesses. And it was a very interesting paper for me to write because I always knew that that they were kind of out there, with their claims, but I never knew to the extent that, have you ever been to the watchtower.org, to the website?
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting, because what the writers of the website do, which the writers of the website, this website's been established for a long time, most of the stuff's been on there for a while. It's not attributed to one specific author, I guess what I'm trying to say. You don't know who the author is of the person that wrote all this stuff. Now you know that Charles Taze Russell, I think, was the founder. Is that right?
I'm not sure.
Yes.
Just we're talking about Jehovah's Witnesses,
yes.
Not Mormons, right?
No, yeah, Jehovah's
Okay.
Witnesses. Yeah, I believe it was Charles Taze Russell was the founder of the Watchtower and everything like that. But he wasn't the person that actually wrote the website. Once they created the website, their numbers started growing ridiculously. But they blatantly lie and misquote people on this website. It's so blatant. Like, what they'll do is they'll take a quote from one of the early church fathers, like Origen, or did I say that right?
Yeah.
Origen. Sorry, you're my enunciation guy. Or pronunciation guy. So, Origen, or I'm trying to think of one of the other ones.
Olitus, Gregory of Nyssa.
It's Nicaea. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
That's fast.
Augustine.
Augustine.
Yes, Augustine. What they do is they take quotes and they'll say something and they'll put 3 dots, an ellipsis in the middle, and then they will put another part of their quote. But the part that they leave out completely changes what they're trying to say. And if the church fathers saw what the Watchtower Org is trying to push and say that they were saying, if they weren't already dead, they would have a heart attack and die. So, those are just some examples of some false gospels. Now, with obviously Mitt Romney running for president as a Mormon, and he's of course not running on a Mormon first policy, but it's interesting to hear some of the conversations that brings up with people that want to say that Mormonism is Christianity. It's just another branch of Christianity and all this stuff. And I was actually on Facebook the other day having a conversation with someone who said that she said, I mentioned the fact that, we're going to get political for a second, but I mentioned the fact that I would almost rather have Barack Obama stay in president for 4 more years than I would have, as a registered Republican here, I would almost rather Obama win than have Mitt Romney for 4 more years. And the reason being is because I feel like either one of them are going to destroy our country for 4 more years. And so, if Mitt Romney wins the nomination now, and wins the presidency, then basically we'd only have 4 years of Republican president, and he'd get voted out probably because he's just as liberal of a spender as Barack Obama is. And anyways, that was the long and short of my argument was I'd rather have Obama in there for 4 more years, making the Democrats look really bad, and then so we'll have an actual good candidate maybe in 4 years instead of Mitt Romney. So, so someone said to me, they were like, I would never vote for Barack Obama under any circumstance. I vote for there's a whole long diatribe about how she only wanted to do what God wanted for the country and that the morals were the most important thing, and she would not vote for Obama because he wasn't really a Christian, all this stuff. And I was just like, she said she wanted to vote for Ron Paul, and I said, well, you wouldn't vote for Ron Paul. He's if it came down between him and Mitt Romney, I mean, he's a Christian and Mitt Romney's a Mormon. You know, so if you really want to go down that road of voting for a God candidate, then you would vote for Ron Paul. And of course, she gave all these other reasons why, you know, it's because Mitt Romney supports, you know, anti-abortion and stuff like that. But I just thought it was so interesting that, like, even though he's a Mormon, like, she was saying that she wanted to vote for a godly candidate, but yet at the same time she wanted to vote for a Mormon. Like, Mormon's not a Christian. I'm sorry to any Mormons out there who, you know, feel like they are or want to twist things and pretend like they are, which they know that they're not. You know, that they don't believe in the Trinity. You know, of course we know the crazy stuff they believe about Joseph Smith and being another prophet and all this, but you know, that's a false gospel. There's a lot of people who are misled, and just the fact that Mitt Romney running as a Mormon, it sparked all these conversations of Mormon people think Mormons are Christians. If they're not a Christian and know about theologically, people think Mormons are Christians in general. I listened to Sean Hannity radio show one day, and people were calling in saying, "Why are you saying Mormons aren't Christians? They definitely are. You know, they believe in God and they believe in Jesus." Well, I mean, who doesn't believe in Jesus? Do people really not think Jesus lived? Who are those people? You know, I mean, people believe Jesus was a great teacher and nothing else. You know, but those are some false gospels that I feel like are really suck a lot of people in. And so that being said, kind of what I wanted to do now is I'm going to give you guys 5 minutes to think about these, because these are some pretty heavy questions here, and I feel like I don't have the answer to any of them, and I personally, even just skimming the surface of thinking about these scenarios and what I would do was a lot. So I'm going to give you guys 5 minutes to think about what you guys would do. I'm going to make you guys draw randomly out of something. That's what I want to do. I'm going to make you draw randomly. Okay, here we go. Who wants to pay first?
I'll pick first.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys 5 minutes. I'm going to cut the camera off to save some battery here on this. Now you guys have 5 minutes to think about